All right, we're absolutely thrilled to bring on the one and only Bucky Brooks from NFL.com. With the NFL draft here, there is no better person to talk to about the top prospects in this class. Bucky, how's it going?
Man, it's good. What's going on? How you doing?
I'm doing good. We're getting there. We're getting close. The draft is what, a month away now as we get to the end of the March. So yeah, we've got pro days, kind of Oregon's in the rear view. Some still going on, but I think this is kind of time to start really making decisions for those NFL teams out there. Yeah.
Yeah, no. So you're in the middle of it. So where we at right now? Like once you get into April, at some point, most NFL front offices begin to bring all their scouts together. They'll start having meetings. They will kind of review and reflect on what they learned from the pro day circuit, who look good, who look well. They begin to organize lists in terms of who we're going to invite into the office for our top 30 visits, and
Hmm.
then we're going to begin to just kind of put the finishing touches on the draft board. So this month is important, obviously, because you want to make sure you have all the information in place so you can make real good decisions on who you want to take over draft weekend.
I love it. It should be another solid year for the Ducks when it comes to the NFL draft. They've had a lot of success under Dan Lanning, kind of breaking records every year for how many players they get drafted. They're not going to break a record this year just because a lot of the players that could have gotten drafted decided to come back to Oregon for one more year, which means next year should be a lot of fun. But there's still some guys, some top prospects in Eugene that I want to talk to you about. Looking at your latest mock draft, you actually, I was relatively surprised to see the top Oregon guy in your list was not Kenyon Sadiq. It was Dylan Theamman. You have him going to the Vikings at number 18. I've seen that as a pretty common spot for him, in several different mocks. What do you like about that fit for the Vikings and Thieneman?
Yeah, now, so here's the thing. So, full disclosure, when it comes to mock drafts, mocks are done with a here's what I think teams are looking for, how they're match up. When it comes to how I really view kid players, it's more about top fives, top 50s, and those things. Thinneman is someone that I absolutely love, though. Like, he's a
Mhm.
natural center field player. He is terrific in terms of playing in space, great instincts, range, ball awareness, but the versatility that displayed since he arrived at Oregon is what separates him from others. Being able to play down in the slot, being able to get near the box, blitz off the edge. He really checks off a lot of boxes. And it's funny that in projecting him to the Minnesota Vikings, he in essence will be replacing someone whose game is eerily similar to his, and that is perennial Pro Bowler Harrison Smith. He's just a really good player, and there's so much more that he can do at the next level. I'm sure coaches are excited about his potential.
So before the combine, you had him at number 29 to the Rams, still a first rounder, but much later. After the combine, obviously he moves up. How much did he help himself specifically just with that combine workout, putting up some of those numbers? And how much of that is just, taking time, teams taking time to actually just see his film and learn more about him?
Well, he was squarely on the radar, like heading into the combine. But anytime you work out like he did, you're going to catch a bunch of attention. You run into four threes, you jump like he jumped, and then you put on the kind of display that he put on in individual workouts. You love that. He is a first round player. He is someone that can be a difference maker in that back end. And because he's so versatile and talented, he's scheme diverse. That just changes how people will view him. He can play in any system and have success. That's why he's in the middle of the first round for me.
It feels like more recently, over the past few years, like with the transfer portal in college football, does that change at all how you guys in the NFL world view these players? He was solid at Purdue. He had a really good freshman season, and then he kind of just flourished at Oregon. What does that mean to you? How do you take that into account at the NFL level?
Well, it's a bit of a preview to how they can handle change, how they can adapt and adjust to doing a new way of doing things, how quickly they can make their mark in a new spot because everyone that transfers does not make the starting line, does not make an impact. So the fact he was able to do that and elevate his game speaks to his preparation and his process for getting ready. Then it's about watching him perform. Oregon utilized him differently than Purdue utilized him. So you got a chance to see a different set of skills from him overall. It's good. Sometimes when you see guys level up, they go from one school that might have been a middle of the pack power forward to now a premier school. How does he handle all of the expectations and the weight that comes along with playing for a team that was viewed as a championship caliber squad?
You've then got Sadiq coming off the board in your latest mock at number 29 to the Kansas City Chiefs. That's lower than I think a lot of people have him. I typically see him in other drafts, other mocks going, mid to late teens. Back in January, you had him all the way up at number 11 to the Dolphins. In February, he dropped to number 22 to the Chargers in your mock, now number 29. Um, do you feel like you're lower on him than others? How come? What's with the what's up? What's with the move down?
Well, with the move down, like when you're doing mock drafts, you have things that impact it, right? Free agency has a bigger thing. So now we go from the first time we're mocking, we don't even have all of the 10 vacancies filled. To then we,
Mhm.
right at the combine, we haven't had free agency. We don't know what the pieces look like when it comes to who's moving where, who's signing whom. For instance, the Los Angeles Chargers signed a tight end, Charlie Kohler,
Mhm.
that changes. Oh, well, that would have been a spot. So those things kind of impacted. There's nothing he did. He had an outstanding performance at the combine. It's more so them settling in to where he's valued because of the tight end and because the last few tight ends that we saw go way, way, way up there, they hadn't performed at that level. I would say that his range is anywhere from, we talked about Miami at 11 because they have a huge need without Darren Waller, to down at the bottom of the first round with the Kansas City Chiefs, just because there are teams that need tight ends, but are they going to prioritize tight ends like the Bears and the Indianapolis Colts did last year, where they took Colston Loveland and Ty Warner at 10 and 14, respectively?
Do you think there's any chance that he falls out of the first round, or you do think he's a pretty solid first round lock?
I think he's pretty solid as a first round lock. That athleticism is real. The questions that people will have on him stems to his size as more of an H back type, more of a Trey McBride type. How is he
Mhm.
going to hold up? Can he protect the edges? Is he going to kind of stick his face in the fan as a blocker? And then as a guy that can get down the seam, what does he look like size wise? Just because he's a bit of an outlier with the size, he's also an outlier with the speed and athleticism. Where does he fall? Sometimes scouts take comfort in guys that have all the traditional measurements compared to those who are a little different and maybe a little unorthodox in their play. Despite his success, he's a really, really good football player, a fine prospect.
So if he did end up at Kansas City, like he does in your mock, obviously some very big shoes to fill there with Travis Kelsey. What do you see what do you project out for his career? Do you think he's got the success in there to have a high end NFL career? What do you kind of think his floor is at the next level?
Yeah, I'm looking at my notes, and I gave him a first round grade, and I talked about catch and run specialist, really adequate blocker in terms of like working across the zone. The thing where he shines at is his ball skills are terrific. He is outstanding in terms of making the plays and catching. When we look at the production, solid. He had 24 catches his junior year, 40 catches or the year before, 40 catches last year, 10 touchdowns. That's solid production. It's just a matter of feeling comfortable and making sure we can get him on the field, get him enough reps, and find a role that works for him right now. So it's just not obvious when he is in the game, there's a pass coming. He has to be able to do other things to kind of earn more playing time to give him the best chance to being able to succeed.
I feel like one of the things with Sadiq that frustrated a lot of Oregon fans is that he just didn't get the ball enough as much as, a lot of people wanted him to, just because he is so talented. But then when you look at it in the plethora of pass catchers and weapons that Oregon has on offense, I mean, you got to spread the ball around, especially with the transfer portal era, to keep these guys on the team and keep them out of the portal. How much do you guys weigh that into your, assessment of these players if they are playing on these prolific offenses with a lot of mouths to feed?
Yeah, well, that's always going to be a part of the conversation, right? So you look at PC, he had 40 catches. He averaged over 10 yards a catch. He had 8 touchdowns. That's a lot of production. You can work with that production. You also look around and see, hey, where else did the ball go? Are those guys worthy? And you have a conversation with the coach. Hey, coach, you just noticed his production seemed to wane at the end of the season. Any particular reason why? Anything that prevented him from being at his best during the thing. And then it's about digging in the tape and checking out their X's and O's. Every play caller doesn't know how to unlock a premier tight end. Some people do, some people don't. So you just have to take all those things in consideration and then get around the kid and let him explain what he's seeing, how he views it, how he feels. Let him articulate it so then you get better buy-in.
Some other top names that have been garnering some buzz out of Eugene: Emanuel Pregnon, Jaden Kennedy, Bryce Bcher. Do you think any of those guys can kind of sneak into the second round? Do you see any falling to day three in your mind? What do you think about that grouping right there?
Yeah, I'll start first things first. Let's go with Pregnon.
Yeah.
And the reason why Pregnon is interesting is because he's a bully at the line of scrimmage. He just absolutely obliterates and mauls people at the point of attack. Physical brawler, feisty, finishes with violence. He is what we call a phone booth specialist. He loves to play in tight areas because he has heavy hands. He's powerful. He'll drive and finish. And then against pass rushers, he's stout and sturdy. He is going to firm up the pocket. He's going to provide his quarterback with enough space to be able to throw it comfortably. And then his awareness in terms of anticipating blitzes, it all shows up. He's a really good prospect.
Jaden Kennedy was one of the unsung heroes of the season this year for Oregon. He had some huge plays and huge moments. He came in as a transfer and was really kind of overlooked. Fans didn't think that he was going to start. They thought he was more of a depth piece, and he turned out to be a great player. What do you see for him at the next level?
Yeah, no, he's interesting because he certainly factors into the mix. And because there's so many defensive backs that come off the board, he's going to come off. And it's going to be one of those borderline day 2, day 3 type picks where you're looking for someone who is a key backup, but also has developmental potential. He's shown that he can provide a bit of a spark as a role player, but can he expand it out? Can he take what he's given as a special teams player and build out a career that goes beyond just covering kicks?
Another guy who seems to be in that mold is Bryce Bcher. I don't know how much you know about him. He's further down the board, but I mean, going into this last year, people didn't know if he'd get drafted at all. I've seen some mocks where he's in the 3rd round. So he is a classic Eugene kid. I mean, he grew up here. He went to the same high school I did. So fans absolutely love him here. I'm curious. I mean, he's obviously got the baseball career too if he wants it with the Astros, but it seems that he's going full in on football. What do you see for him? It seems like he's kind of more of a special teams player to start at least.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's going to enter his career as that, but I think it's really interesting in reading up on his background before watching him was the baseball background.
Mm-hmm.
Given how hard it is to do that, that certainly plays a part in terms of like just respecting his instincts, awareness, hand-eye coordination, overall athleticism. Then when you turn on the tape and you just see this dude run downhill, make plays, throws himself into the mix on special teams, there's just a lot of things that he's able to do. On day 3, when we get into the 6th and 7th rounds and we're beginning to throw darts, trying to find guys to see if they have a chance of making it, he is going to have a chance because of his length, his athleticism, more importantly, because his baseball background could translate into other skills that he could utilize as a player.
Several other guys for Oregon. I'm not going to ask you to go one by one, but of this group, just kind of pick out maybe a name or two that intrigues you as day 3 guys. You got Malik Benson, Noah Whittington, Isaiah World, Theron Johnson, and Gary Bryant. Do any of those guys stand out to you as someone that could maybe go higher than others are expecting or have a good impact on a team down the road?
Okay, you keep me honest on Malik Benson. I'm going to talk about Isaiah World first, and then you remind me to talk about Benson. And World, I just have supersized offensive tackle. He is huge. And I think just because of his size, he's going to have a chance. Mauler brawler. He's a force at the line of scrimmage just due to his physicality. Fundamentals need to be cleaned up. But to me, he's one of those developmental prospects that you're taking a chance on because he has tools. Day 3, somewhere down the line, he's going to come off the board. Now, Benson. I saw Benson. I want to say he was maybe at the East-West Shrine game. And when you look at whatever the series was on YouTube that I watched with the Ducks.
The Ducks versus them, yeah.
Yes, watching the background on him and then watching his tape, really intriguing. The speed is there. The instincts and awareness are there. To me, I would say building the confidence up. Typically what you're looking for on day 3 in those rounds, 5th, 6th, and 7th, what are the redeeming qualities that give him a chance to play at the next level? I would say his speed, his athleticism, and then it's about can he carve out a role to buy himself time to get into the rotation. So can he do enough on teams to give himself enough time to eventually get on the field as a wide receiver?
I feel like Benson is a really cool example of what the transfer portal can do for players. I mean, he bounced around a little bit, played at, Alabama, JUCO, Florida State, and then came to Oregon, and that's where he really found his role and flourished. And now he's, he was not in the draft mix a year ago, and then he came to Oregon, got that extra year, and now he's considered that maybe day 3 realm. So that's one of those really cool examples. A couple more before we wrap up. I just want to talk to you about Dante Moore. He made the tough call to come back to school for one more year, pass on, a likely first round grade, potential early pick in this draft. how do you see him if he did come out in this draft and decided to come out as this class? Do you think he is the number 2 pick behind Mendoza? Do you think he's, a top 10 pick? Where do you see him?
I think it would have been QB2, just
Okay.
given everything that was coming on. And that's even with, like, I would say maybe the struggles against Indiana in terms of like their changing looks and pitches and those things. What we can't deny is when we see him, the talent pops off the film. Terrific, talented. He's lived up to the hype as a ballyhooed prospect coming out of high school. Then it's about seeing what are the advances to his game this year. How does he grow? Does he become more of a guy that can orchestrate everything at the line of scrimmage? Does he play with even more confidence down in the red zone? Does he have the ability to take over games? So he's more of a game changer than game manager at the position. He has a lot of intriguing tools and assets. Like everyone talked about it coming in, that even if he had come out, people would not have liked doing it, but they would have taken him early just because the talent is there. Now that he's come back and made, I would say, maybe a mature business decision, I like it. And in looking at him ahead of like next season's class, look, Arch Manning's going to be there, Julian Sain's going to be there, Moore's going to be there. There's going to be a bunch of people vying for spots early. If he puts it down and plays well, I know that he's going to be in that conversation because Dan Lanning has this team going. And as this team gets going and they make playoff runs, more eyes are going to pay attention to Dante Moore.
That was kind of my next question. Do you think that he made the right move? I mean, next year's draft class right now appears to be stacked with quarterbacks. We said the same thing about this year's draft class, and that it didn't really turn out that way. But you've got Arch, you've got CJ Carr, Sayin, Brennan Sorsby. Do you think that Dante Moore, made the right decision by coming back, or would you rather seen him come out this year?
No, I think he made the right decision. The reason why he made the right decision, what are we trying to do? Are we trying to get to the league or are we trying to flourish in the league? If we're trying to get to the league, he can kind of run the game on them, don't do any of the testing, show up at draft night and hear his name called and get a bag. But if he's trying to be great, like he's talked about, well, then you got to make sure that your habits align with what your dreams are. And how does he go to work? How does he approach it? How does he finish it? What are his practices like? Are they consistent? Can I go and randomly pull up a practice on September 3rd and see Dante Moore dealing like he would deal on game day? Those are the little areas where he has to come. If anything, I would say treat it like a pro. Be a pro every day. Figure out how to be a pro, how to maximize who I have. Make it fun, but make sure we have a little competitive zeal to him, that when it's time to determine who are the franchise quarterbacks, that he's in that conversation.
I love that. All right, let's wrap it up right there. Bucky, thank you very much for coming on. I know it's the busy time for you, so really appreciate it. If you have not seen his latest mock draft on NFL.com, please go check that out. It's got some good stuff, and best of luck over the next month. I know it's gonna get kind of crazy in your world, so best of luck.
No, man, thanks for having me on. It was fun.
All right, great stuff there with Bucky, as always. I really like what he had to say about, Sadiq and even with Theamman too, about how, the mocks, it doesn't really matter what number they're going as much. It's more about where that fit is and kind of what teams they're going to take. So I think that, it'll be interesting to track over the next month, but I think Oregon does have 2 first-round locks. I think they'll have another year. This is a third year, at least second year straight, maybe third year straight. I think third year straight of having 2 first-round picks, because you had Bo and Gonzo, then you had Harmon and Connerly, and then this year probably Theamman and Sadiq. I don't think they're going to get that third first rounder with Pregnon. It looked early on like they might get a third first rounder. It would be the first time in Oregon Ducks program history, that they have 3 first-round players taken. I don't think it'll happen this year. I think Pregnon will probably a second-round pick somewhere day 2. Next year is when I think that record is going to break. So, again, good stuff with Bucky. A lot of fun to talk to him. We'll definitely have him on next year. Looking at these prospects again for Oregon, this should be I think a good yearly staple to have him on. I will be back on with Jay Stu probably next week as we get ready for spring ball to ramp up once again and kind of touch on some NFL draft stuff, some college basketball stuff. Maybe there's big college basketball news to talk about with the Oregon Ducks. Who knows? That's just something that we'll be keeping an eye on over this offseason. You can check out more of my work at duckswire.usatoday.com. Follow me at Zachary C. Neel. Jay Stu, not on today, but follow him at Jonathan Stu R1. For myself, Zach Neel, we will talk to you guys next week. Until then, take it easy.